Unknown Thought is made possible through the generosity of sponsors who care about people. IC Savings Bank, Ready Honda, and Corey's Clothiers. Welcome to another episode of Unknown Thought. I'm here with Debbie Berlin, advocate, social worker, and therapist. Debbie, I'm really glad you joined me today. I know that a lot of your time, and when I first met you, you were very involved in Sheena's Place. Sheena's Place has a name that doesn't identify what it is. Perhaps that's exactly what it's supposed to be. Tell me about Sheena's Place and what happens there.
So Sheena's Place is an agency specifically serving families who are living with or struggling with eating disorders, men and women. And it's named after a young woman by the name of Sheena Carpenter, who died over, I'd say, 10 years ago from complications related to an eating disorder. And it was her mother and a number of people who came together who decided we needed to start an agency like Sheena's Place.
Now, I mean, I've struggled with food my whole life in terms of both consumption and also what it does to you psychologically. Mm-hmm. What is an eating disorder and how is it manifest? Because I think most people associate eating disorder with fat people. Mm-hmm. or ultra thin people, and I think there's a whole degree in between. I think it's about body image and what you see in the mirror and what you imagine. What did you discover from your work there?
Well, yes, you're absolutely right. I do think that people operate in these dichotomies of thinking that it has to do with being extremely overweight or underweight. And I think what's so important for people to realize is that there is a very high percentage of people who diet. And if you're engaging in dieting behaviors, that can really begin a lifetime of struggles related to food. Because ultimately, anytime that you're experiencing real deprivation from food, it sends messages to the brain where you actually end up wanting that food more. And that's a whole very involved process to get into. But ultimately, I think what's so important is that it's a combination of family factors, living in the society that we live in, the pressures that are involved, especially with kids growing up and feeling like they have to be and act a certain way. And if you put all of those things together, it's not uncommon to see kids really struggling around their body image and how they feel they should be. And we're seeing children as young as 5 starting to already talk about—
5?
Yeah, 5.
And where are they getting that feedback from that's changing their natural, healthy view?
Well, you know, some of it starts at home, and something as, you know, seemingly benign as, do I, looking in the mirror and hearing a parent say, do I look big in these jeans, right? And having a distorted view of yourself, right? I hear many of my clients say, I was told that I was fat, and then I look at pictures of myself and I wasn't at all. I also think that if you look at the media, you look at certain images, you look at Hollywood, you look at what children and teenagers are being told, even music, right, around what looks hot and what does it mean to be attractive. And I think we as adults also forget about what does it mean to feel good about yourself. So just looking at issues around confidence and self-esteem and how we're intelligent beings, but so much focus is really on the external and on the body.
So how do you move people from a deeply held self-perception to something that clearly needs modification? How do you move them to the modified view, and can it be done?
Well, this may sound shocking, but it's 5 words that I usually say at the beginning of every group. It's not about the food.
Right.
Because it's not. And that once people realize that the food, whatever you're doing with it, is a coping mechanism, is a survival strategy, and once we start to really go beneath that tip of the iceberg, then you can actually start to see emotional shifts, because it's an emotional relationship that you're having to a substance. The difficult thing about food, unlike drugs or alcohol or smoking, and I'm certainly not saying that it's easy to quit those habits, but we need food in order to survive. So it's learning to develop a different relationship to food. So what I often say to people is, food is fuel. Our bodies, this is the gas tank, and we need to fill it up with the proper fuel in order to function. And separating it from what is going on in your emotional life. and helping people just rebuild themselves and associate food and relate to food in a very different way.
So, on a similar note, you've also worked with abused women. Mm-hmm. You've also been an advocate for women's rights. Mm-hmm. What's the status of women now? I mean, since I've grown up, I've watched this consciousness about women's rights and abuse. Is there any good news?
That's a huge question that would take, I think, hours for us to really fully discuss. But I would also say that some of my view has really changed since I became a mother. I think while you look at, let's say, graduating classes of schools of medicine, dentistry, and law, almost half of them are filled with women. That being said, the demands today in 2010, I believe, that are placed on women are more than ever before. So even though you can say that, well, look at women's rights, we've made huge advances, look at where women are in the workforce. Yes, that's true. But if you look at still, quote, domestic labor and the bulk of, let's say, childcare and who is doing it, it's still women.
So what does that tell us about the drive for equality? Is that misguided, perhaps? Would it not be better if the drive for equality was not necessarily in gender roles, but in commitment?
Yossi, I really think it has to do with the value. How do people value childcare? How do people value the work that's done in the home? You know, I was recently talking to a friend of mine who is a mother of 3 children. She wants to re-enter the workforce. And the question that kept getting asked to her was, well, what paid work have you done? Mm-hmm. She's raised 3 children. Why is that not seen as valuable work? Why is that not seen as an active, valuable contribution to our society? And it's there that I think we need to start. So workplaces that have childcare, right? Workplaces that create hours that help working parents, right? Households where men and women, where fathers and mothers see that laundry, cooking, cleaning is as valuable and as equal as going out and, quote, earning a living.
I want to conclude with you coming home every day to your beautiful daughter and having left the hospital where anything could have happened. You mentioned to me a day that 5 brain tumors are diagnosed in 1 day in children. You come home and there's your beautiful daughter, and you're a mother, you're a wife, you're a family woman, you have a career. What does it say to you? Does it say to you that there is a normal, that there is the ability to transmit both the tragedy and the positivity and build a new life, and that really is what protects you from what you do?
Well, I'm taking a moment just because it's...
1 minute.
I feel so lucky. I feel blessed. I feel lucky. This is where I think, you know, when people talk about spirituality, this is where it's like paying attention and realizing what I have, right? A healthy child, a healthy partner, you know, my extended family is here with us in Toronto. We have good food to eat. Those are the things that, you know what, when you face, I think, life or death, and at Sheena's place, when people are struggling, like really struggling, and I think there's a continuum of life struggles, and I've always maintained this, that everybody has a story, that it just makes me want to hold them really tight, and just, I'm thankful.
That's beautiful. That's what we call shalom bayit. Not that the house is peaceful, but the house is the whole piece. Mm-hmm. That's where it's at. Mm-hmm. Once again, thank you so much for being on here. It's fascinating, and it's so wonderful to listen to you describe a world that many of us are either scared of or unaware of, and thank you for your passion.
Thanks, Yossi.
Nice to have you on.
Thanks for having me.
Okay.